We've seen maybe 50 properties in the city of Chicago, and we finally found the one. You're spending all that time. It's not paid. You don't get paid to do these showings. You have to make sure that you're financially in a position where if you want to pursue real estate, you're able to, because you're not going to get paid for some time.
Wendy Andrade.
That's me, Dr. A, the only Mexican in my entire college. I'm known for quitting my six-figure salary job not once, but twice. My parents think I'm crazy. My siblings are not surprised. And my friends, well, I think they saw this one coming. So join TT and I as we hit the road, catch some flights, and try to figure this shit out together. Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Dr. A. And today I'm going to answer all of the questions I've received after this TikTok went viral with over 2.7 million views. The people want to know if you should be a real estate agent, if you should pursue real estate in Chicago, why I left my six-figure pharmacist job to pursue real estate in the city of Chicago, and I'll also share a little bit as to what I did to get involved in real estate and how my career started and where it is now. But I'm so excited to share with you guys. There's so much to cover today, so let's get started. There are over 3,800 comments on this. I will try my best to answer as many as possible. Also, if you don't follow me on here, you're welcome to check out my socials. It's at @the_Wendy City on Instagram and the Wendy City on TikTok. I am a real estate agent in the city of Chicago. My parents named me Wendy after the Windy City, so it's really exciting that I get to sell my city. So if you're looking for a real estate agent to help you search for a rental, or if you're looking to sell or buy in the city, just shoot me a DM on my platform or call the cell phone number on the screen, and my team will make sure that you get taken care of. I am part of the Hargy group, which is about an 8-member group. I'm the only agent in the city, so I will cover the city needs, but I do go west since my parents are in Aurora. If you're looking for North Shore, my team is based out of Glenview, so we cover the North Shore area as well as south suburbs. You already know, call the number on the screen, and again, we will make sure that you get well taken care of. So I'm just going to start with the basics. Why would I leave a six-figure pharmacist salaried healthcare benefit career? I got really burnt out in my career. There is a video that I go into depth into why you should or should not consider being a pharmacist. Being a first-generation Mexican-American daughter of immigrants, I didn't realize what I was getting myself into. So when I was a pharmacist, I was often the youngest of the woman Spanish speaking in the pharmacy. I was 24 years old, and even 25, 26, being in a hospital setting, it just became very unfulfilling for me to be a pharmacist in those roles, simply because I felt that I didn't have the resources or the staff to help me help my patients. It was a really difficult time. I was living in my parents' basement, and I was running a planner business. I was just doing everything to avoid leaving my pharmacist career. I graduated in 2019. I signed on to a retail pharmacist job, which I worked for 10 months, which I then found from a patient of mine who took me out of that setting, and he shows me how to start my own pharmaceutical consulting business, which is what I did for about 10 months until we got completely shut down, and it was really difficult for us to do our job. At that time, I was offered a hospital PRN job where I worked every other weekend as a pharmacist in a clinical setting. That meant that I was a clinical pharmacist in a hospital. I loved it at first. You have you get your two phones, you got your dual screens, and you're sitting down, and my mom was a technician there, so it was awesome to be able to work with my mom and have lunch with her. However, I was working at 3 to 11:30 at night, and every other weekend, it was just so dreadful for me that I felt limited in my capacity and very challenged in my work setting. I am still PRN, which means that I can work 2 shifts a year, and I am affiliated still with that hospital, but I'm still able to practice real estate full time, which leads me to why real estate. When I was a clinical pharmacist, I started off as every other weekend. However, a pharmacist left, and at that time they offered me a full-time job with benefits, and I said, hell yeah, because usually you have to do a PGY1 or PGY2, which I talk about in a different video. I would have needed to gone to school for 2 more years to get a clinical pharmacist job. So when the opportunity presented itself, I automatically took it. Then I was working full-time, started in October, July of the end of 2020. And at that time, I started listening to Real Estate Rookie podcast with Ashley and Felipe Mejia. And seeing Felipe and his success in real estate investing really hit home for me, just because I saw another Latino minority in the community pursuing something that seemed really appealing to me. At the time, there was this app called Clubhouse. Honestly, I don't even know if it's still a thing. You can go on stage and you can ask questions, and Felipe was on that call, and I was like, hey, I've listened to your podcast and I love what you're doing and I really want to get into real estate investing. I kept listening to podcasts, and they talked a lot about Bigger Pockets podcast and Bigger Pockets as a platform. The best way to describe it, it's like a Facebook for real estate investors. Long story short, I got connected with a lender who was awesome, and he introduced me to my realtor at the time. I was on a 6-figure pharmacist salary, so when I got pre-approved, even with my student loan college debt and my Tesla car payment, I was able to afford at that time, it was up to $450,000 on a 4-unit multifamily. I got under contract on a triplex, so it's a 3-unit property. 2 of them were vacant and 1 of them was still occupied. Because of the pandemic, they said that we couldn't see it until inspection. However, when inspection came about, a lot of issues, and I decided to back out. And by a lot, I mean a long list of things. Asbestos was like one of the bottom least relevant things, and obviously if you watch HGTV, you know how big of a problem asbestos is. So I decided to back out, and I was under contract on that triplex for about $2,675, and the ARV after repair value was going to be in the 300s. However, there was foundation issues and all these other structural problems and headaches that I just didn't want to get involved in at the time. That's when I decided to back out of that deal. And my real estate agent at the time was like, Wendy, you would be really good at this. Like, if you ever consider real estate, you should join my team. I could use the help. And at the time, I was so miserable in my pharmacist job that I had told him already, like, hey, look, if this deal doesn't work out, I'm quitting my job. I was holding on to that investment as the reason to stay in my pharmacist job. But once I backed out of the deal, I decided to just leave pharmacy full time. So that's when I went back to PRN. I was working as much as I could still to save up more money, because I still thought that I wanted to invest, and maybe now I could buy my own property. I leave my pharmacist job in July. Honestly, just took like 6 months off completely from the hospital. I went to Mexico for Thanksgiving. It was in November and then December, and then I came back, and then it was like February where I really hit the books, and I just decided in the next 4 weeks I'm getting my license. The end of February of 2022, I passed my real estate exam and I joined his team. Also in that February time, a friend that I went to college with asked me to move to the city with her because she needed a roommate. I was living in my parents' basement, as I mentioned earlier, and I said, you know what, whatever, I'm doing it. So then I moved to the city in February of 2022, and I lived there for about a year, and then February of 2023, this year, I moved into my own place, which you see this fabulous place I call home. I'm coming up on February 2024 will be my 2-year real estate mark. However, August of 2022 was when I decided to switch groups. So I switched over from eXp Realty to At Properties. And from August to August of this year now, I broke 6 figures in my real estate career. And that pretty much sums up my whole story as to how I got to where I am today. I do want to go through, if you are someone who's interested, I did the Chicago Real Estate School, and I will link it in the bio. I'll also add it here. It was about $500 for the full program, and it's videos online, so I never had to go in person. Overall, you can get it done in about 4 weeks, depending on how much time you dedicate to it. You do have to set aside 2 weeks for live presentations. You have to meet with the instructor 2 days of the 2 weeks before you take your exam in order to get approved by the school to take the exam. So there's a hybrid course for $549, and then there's the all online, which is $499. The team there is amazing. They're super on top of it. They'll send you a book by the time you register for the class. You watch the videos, you follow along in the book. The instructors are hilarious and very knowledgeable, and honestly, I passed on my first time. You get 2 hours for the state exam, 2 hours for the federal exam. I felt really prepared after taking the course and very well instructed, and I always had someone to reach out to when I did this course. I'll link it below if you want to reach out to them. Definitely feel free to let them know that I sent you, and make sure that they take great care of you guys. So outside of getting the licensure, it's really, it is hard. I'm not gonna lie. I took a 6-hour NAPLEX like pharmacy board exam and a 2-hour law exam. I will say the real estate school, it's very heavy on the law. So knowing about easements, knowing about deeds, knowing about the structure of the real estate job is something that is more pertinent to the attorneys, but as realtors we have to know. So the real burning question that everyone wants to know is, Wendy, should I be a realtor? And I'll be completely honest with you. I believe that if you need to be asked if you should do something, the answer is probably no. But I think back to when I wasn't a real estate agent and I asked for advice, is you shouldn't really ask yourself, should you do something, or what you should do to be a realtor. I think the real question is, why do you want to be a real estate agent? I wanted to be a real estate agent because outside of having a personal experience being on the investment side and being under contract and understanding the process, I moved 7 times growing up. I had to help my parents throughout every single one of those moves. We never even hired movers. It was always like a family affair thing. I was super involved. I knew what every house that we bought sold for. We lost our home in a short sale. We had to rent for 2 years from that because if you foreclose, then it's a 10-year. So I was always really involved with real estate. We had 2 realtors that honestly were not amazing, were not phenomenal. I look back now and I pull up the pictures and I'll see if I can include them on here, but they were horrific. I mean, I'm telling you, you can literally see the lady in the bathroom with her iPad. And I think about the experience that we had and seeing my dad cry for the first time when he lost his job and we had to lose our home, and understanding that real estate is a really emotional process. And I think being on that end of the real estate scope really helps me and is my why I chose to do real estate. I am so passionate about this. Like I love what I do. I wake up every morning. I love the people that I work for. I love my buyers. I love my sellers. I love my renters. I pick up my clients from airports. I pick up my clients from their homes here in the city and I drive them around to showings. I'm huge on social media. I help relocate clients from Cali to Chicago. I found my best friend through doing my work. I also help a lot of physician residents who are doing residency or relocating here to Chicago to do residency at Rush, Northwestern, or Cook County. I did start in the rental space. So when I first moved to the city in February of 2022, I represented myself in my own rental. And the way that rentals work in the city of Chicago, there are MLS and corporate leases. So in these corporate managed buildings, we get 1 month. For example, in this place is $2,500 a month. I got a check from the management group, not even the company that I work for, but the management group paying me a broker commission of $2,500 for renting myself my own place. So when I did that for myself in February 2022, then I started working with people that reached out like, hey, I'm looking for a rental in the city. Could you help? And I would give them access to the MLS, and I would then schedule tours based on their requirements, a full day of 7 tours in 1 day. I've seen almost everything here there is to see in the city in every single neighborhood. I would drive them around and I'd show them rentals, and that's where a lot of my business honestly came from. So I will say in a lot of the suburb areas, they're primarily mainly MLS rentals. The way that MLS rentals work is that you only get 50% of the 1 month's rent. So all of these fees are paid out by either the landlord if it's an MLS lease, or the management company. In that case, they would give you the whole full month's rent of any client that you bring through the door. And they have their own leasing team. So technically, you're just kind of following your client around to watch them do the tour, and someone else is touring them. So everything that's on the MLS was posted by a real estate agent. So that agent gets 50% of the 1 month, and then they have to pay the person who brings the client 50%. So they split that 1 month in half. And I think in the suburb areas, a lot of the rentals are MLS rentals, so a lot of people don't like to do them. But I leased out a place where they only paid me $600. The company's gonna take their cut. I'm gonna have to pay Uncle Sam, and by the end of that, I might just get like $200 from doing that. And I spent maybe like 5 hours collectively on invoicing and doing that deal. But again, this is why I say, why do you want to be an agent? But I think I'm just going to address the big elephant in the room, is that real estate does not make you the money that you think, or that you see this glamorous life. I bought my Tesla with my pharmacist salary. I rented out my own place from the savings that I had saved over, and that's in another video, but I had over $20,000 saved. I really took a risk on myself in order to make this career successful. But if you're looking at the numbers, I mean, as a pharmacist and as a realtor, yes, they're both 6 figures now where I've gotten them, but real estate fulfilled my passions and my desires, and it's something I wake up every day super excited to do. And there's just no price tag that could have kept me in a pharmacist job at that time. In the state of Illinois, the average realtor makes about $90,000 a year, and that's a range from, some are making $40,000 a year. Some people are only selling 1 to 2 places a year. And as a buyer's agent, where a lot of us start that don't come from family lines of real estate, don't have anything in our books, and we're starting from scratch, you're probably selling 1 home in your very first year of being licensed. Once I got my license in February, I was part of this group and I was doing a lot of rentals. So rentals don't even count towards your actual profession, to be honest. So then in August of 2022, when I switched over to app properties, was when I really hit the floor running. I gave real estate just all of my time. I went heavy into my social media and just sharing my story, meeting more like-minded people, going to networking events. That's overall like the expectation, is probably not gonna sell anything at all on your first year. I consider my first year August of 2022 with the new brokerage that I had switched to, and I switched simply because I had more mentorship through this brokerage, and all of the deals went under my name. So I was just thinking of, where do I want to position myself in the future? I knew luxury was my sauce and I wanted to focus on luxury, and that's why I did that. Overall, to give you guys then the breakdown as to what real estate is and what it entails. Even my camera battery started getting hot, because one thing that my friends say is like, Wendy, you make it look so easy. And I'm not gonna lie, I do genuinely post a lot of the amazing parts of my job that I get to do on my social media, Instagram, my stories, and those are real things. But at the end of the day, there's a lot that you probably don't see, and it's not that I'm trying to hide it, it's just that it's kind of, I mean, it's not boring for me, but it would be boring for you guys to see what I truly do all day. So for example, going through my weeks, I'm usually up by 5 a.m. I'll snooze till 5:30. I usually have a yoga or HIIT class at 6 or 7 in the morning throughout the week. Then I hit the steam room, and then I shower at the gym, and then I come home, and by this time it's either 8 or 9 in the morning, and that's kind of where I do client database. So it's truly just touching base with all of the clients that I haven't talked to. My client database, and I teach a course on this for real estate agents, is how to use your social media as your database. So I spend some time on social media to kind of touch base with people, check my comments, check my messages, check pretty much everything on social to make sure that any leads didn't come in. As a real estate agent, you have to be available all the time. And I mean, like, I tell my friends all the time, I'm always working, but I'm also never working, if that makes any sense. So if we go to dinner, I have my laptop in my bag, like ready in case an offer needs to come through, or I get a call and I need to step aside. If I'm home with my family already understands that, hey, I'm here. My mom has ended up in the hospital twice this year, and thankfully I have been able to be there and work from there. But a lot of the times, come home, I review my clients, I spend a lot of time editing my social media. I spend a lot of time coaching realtors. I also spend a lot of time, I go to the office 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 1 p.m. I spend an hour going through invoicing, so making sure if anything that hasn't been paid on. Let's put it this way. You are your business and you are running a full business. So whether that's a McDonald's, a franchise, or a consulting or marketing, whatever business you're running, real estate is a business. It's how you present yourself. It's having processes in place. It's managing yourself. It's making yourself do things you don't want to do. It is a full-on job that's full-time. You're always on. One of the biggest things that I spend my time on too is going to networking events. I pretty much say yes to everything. So if someone's like, hey, there's a happy hour XYZ, or there's this event, I'm always there. I think that's kind of where a lot of people see on my socials that I'm always out, and it's like, yes, but that's my work. I'm intentionally there meeting people. Am I a salesy person? No. Do I care if someone has a realtor they work with? I highly encourage that. I get a lot of work through my social media. So again, that's why I spend a lot of time on my social media. A client, let's say, wants to go see places. Sometimes it's, you get a call and it's like, hey, I saw this place. I want to go check it out. I have to go and request those tours. And it's not like you could just request it and go walk into the condo, especially in the city. Let's say the client loves that place, which is actually not too rare, but sometimes they'll see one and they'll love it. Right now I have someone who we've seen maybe 50 properties in the city of Chicago, and we finally found the one. You're spending all that time. It's not paid. You don't get paid to do these showings. You have to make sure that you're financially in a position where if you want to pursue real estate, you're able to, because you're not going to get paid for some time. In Chicago, you have to know HOAs, you have to know special assessments, you have to know rental caps, whether it's investor friendly, and the rental caps can vary from 15 to no rental cap, and owner occupancy, and just management groups, and there's so much that goes into a building. So again, it's a business. It's knowing all of this about the buildings. Having good mentorship is also really important. I was kind of figuring this out a lot on myself. Once a client wants to put in an offer, I go into my system, I pull up the client, I write up an offer. I mean, it's the car multi-board 7.0 contract is like 12 pages. Every client's different. So depending if that client, if they want to negotiate, then I have to call the agent and then talk to the agent and say, hey, here's where my client's at. Or sometimes we'll type it up and we're looking at PIN numbers for these properties. We have to know pricing. You have to know seller's credit. You have to know earnest money. You have to know date of closing. You have to know home warranties. You have to know financing. Having a good lender in your back pocket. Having a good attorney at that. Going back to putting in an offer, I go on DocuSign. I fill out the whole offer. I add whatever I need to add, and then I send it out to my client. My client then signs it via DocuSign. Then I submit it to the agent, and I have a whole template on submitting an offer, which you need your pre-approval for the client at the time. And I completely forgot to even talk about getting clients pre-approved and working with the lender, and that's a whole, that could be a whole video. Financing is just a huge undertaking, honestly. Then, okay, let's say we go back and forth, so we have to keep changing the price. They want to go higher, they want to go lower, they want to give different credits, or they don't want to give credits. Then that's just working with the buyer, by the way. If they accept the offer, then they have to send that contract to their client so they could sign it. Once I get that back, and then disclosure, so depending on the property. Is there a radon? Is it below the 3rd floor? Or is it a high rise? You need a real property residential disclosure, radon, lead-based paint on those older buildings. All of these things that you need to really have a whole packaged offer. So yeah, I'm spending a lot of the time sitting at my desk, and that's a lot of what I don't show. I spend a lot of time calling agents and figuring out what we're gonna do, submitting offers, talking to my team. Overall, the hardest part of being a real estate agent is finding work, is finding clients, is finding people to trust you, I mean, people are buying properties that are usually on average over 100,000 to $1 million. So why are they going to work with you when they could go work with someone who's done this thousands of times? So I think establishing that trust with clients is huge. Prior to social media, I was doing Zillow leads. So I was paying about $1,000 a month, and I split that with a lender 50-50 to make sure that we got at least one lead a month. And from there, I was able to build my first book of business, then expand into my social media leads. A lot of people don't understand the level of professionalism that is required. When I answer my phone, if someone calls, "Hello, this is Wendy with That Properties," it's not like, "Hello." Like, your phone will always be on. You're always on. You're always working. You're the face of your business. What people see is what they're going to get. So I think to stress the importance of what real estate truly is it's a business of people, like most businesses are. Without clients, you don't have a business. I take a lot of pride in being really good at it because I come from a place where when I first started, I didn't need real estate to make money. I had all my pharmacist money savings to have a fallback plan. If worst case scenario, real estate didn't work out for me, I had a 6-figure pharmacist job to go back to. But I knew that this was what I'm passionate about. This is what I love. I love meeting new people. I love seeing everything there is for sale in the city of Chicago. And I think that's what most people think real estate is. Like, oh, I just get a code and I open the door and I take people through. Depending on the client, whether they're an investor, whether they're a first-time home buyer, or they're selling their property with me and then buying a property with me, every showing is completely different. Once we walk into an apartment, I go and I open below the sink. I make sure there's no signs of water leak. I'm checking for GCFI outlets and making sure that what might come up during inspection. And then appraisals need to be making sense. I mean, there's just so much more that goes into this business. I would love for you guys to ask me further questions. I'm happy to make this video longer. But overall, real estate truly is more than just showing property and getting it sold. Sometimes you're under contract for 30 to 60 days where sometimes things fall apart and you don't get paid. It's 100% commission job. So I think understanding that helps put a little bit more perspective into what real estate is. I appreciate you guys so much for all of your support. I hope this video helped clarify a little bit more of what I do as a real estate agent here in the city of Chicago. And if it's something that you still want to do, maybe take a job as an assistant for a realtor, and that will really expose you to what the job is. The only advice I have, don't chase the money. You're not going to make money. I'll tell you this. Do it because you love it. Do it because you enjoy connections, networking. Money comes from anything that you're passionate about. It will follow you, no matter if it's doing brows, lashes, makeup, hair, whatever it is. Just follow your passion. Money follows passion. If you have any questions, please leave it below. Enjoy the holidays, and I will catch you in the new year. Bye-bye.